Welcome back. You're still inside Business Africa, Africa's business news and information leader. Thanks for staying with us. Indeed, we will be bringing in a very short while a very important personality. This is the Honorable Minister of Land, Housing and Urban Development, Mrs. Ekon Eyakheye, and who actually turned 55 recently. But indeed, about a year ago, she assumed office as the Honorable Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development when she was appointed by President Goodluck Jonathan. And her first assignment was when she joined us at the celebration of the 100 years of Nigerian nationhood by CED magazine. And she was actually representing the Vice President, Architect Nnamdi Sambo. And that was our first encounter with her. We've been seeing her since then. However, we just thought that it was just wise to bring her on the program for today, almost a year after, to look at her milestone. Indeed, let me use this opportunity to welcome Chief Mrs. Ekon Eyakheye to Inside Business Africa. Madam, you are very much welcome.
Thank you.
Honorable Minister, thank you again for joining us. And let me just go straight to congratulate you, because a couple of days ago, you celebrated your birthday and you added another 1 year. How do you feel? And as we say, congratulations.
Wow. Thank you very much. I want to say I'm very, very happy, excited that I turned a year older. I'm 55 years old, and I thank God for grace that He has carried me so far.
Indeed, madam, let's now go to the main business of today, which is your milestones. Indeed, when you joined about a year ago, the Ministry of, as Minister of Lands and Housing and Urban Development, you joined the Federal Executive Council. And you must have put in so many things. I would like you to define the vision of the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, and also the drivers of this vision, and some key achievements you have witnessed or you have put in place since you assumed office.
Since I came on board, to ensure that this is fulfilled, this vision, good vision is fulfilled, we had to put things in place. First was identification of what is the problem, what are the issues, why couldn't Nigerians have homes. A major issue happened to be land. Lack of land access to unencumbered land, funding, because for civil servants or the low-income earners to be able to save money to go get mortgage or build a home of their own is always a problem. So we had to first ensure that we secure unencumbered land across the nation. Through the governors, we wrote to the governors and asked the governors to acquire land and transfer to the ministry, which some states have done that. I'm still waiting for feedback from other states. I've gotten so far about 20 states that have given us access to unencumbered land.
Well, madam, let's be a little more specific, especially in terms of housing, and then later on we'll go to urban development if we have more time. But let's look at housing and also be able to delve into the issue of financing as well.
We came to realize that, unfortunately, that we recorded about 17 million deficits in the housing sector. And also unfortunate to see that most civil servants will serve for about 35 years, and at the end of their service year, they still retire back home to stay in a rented apartment. Luckily, the present administration under Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, our president, became very interested in the housing sector. And it's one of the transformation agenda policy of the present administration to turn around the housing sector to ensure that Nigerians have homes, affordable homes over their head. So the responsibility of the ministry is that of facilitating the provision of affordable homes to Nigerians.
Well, the public-private partnership is key to driving the housing sector globally. Most importantly, what has been the achievement? Can you point out specifically some major things that has happened in terms of, MOUs that we had that you signed some last week or thereabout, and some are still in the pipeline. But could you speak specifically in terms of what kind of cooperation you're receiving from the private sector?
If you look at the government alone, it may not be possible because the resources of the government has different areas it's going to. So it wouldn't be possible for government to start building, providing the funding for shelter. Yes, government does under a few schemes that I'll mention, but we have to look outwards. And that brings us to the PPP partnership that I've been able to establish in the ministry since I came on board. So far, I've signed about 3 MOUs with major developers. The Signature Group from Dubai is ready to give us 10,000 houses across the nation. I have also signed a MOU with Basap Ventures Limited, also ready to give us 15,000 housing unit. As we speak, I have the China Group. We are processing. Maybe in the next 1 or 2 weeks, we will conclude the process, the MOU arrangement, before we can declare them open and take them to sites. We've been able to acquire sites, land here in Abuja, at Gwagwalada, about 200 hectares of land that has been facilitated and given to the developers. Under the ministries or the government sponsorship, we have projects like the Ministerial Pilot Scheme, which is funded by the Federal Mortgage Bank, an agency of the ministry. I have quite a good number of developers across the nation, states where we have the unencumbered land. For that, they are small number at a time. The FMBN can fund up to 500 units, 100 units, 300 units, depending, because it's a bank. You don't just go carry money. The process has to go through what the developer's capacity can take. It's ongoing. I commissioned the Elim estate in Enugu last year, which was 100% funded by the FMBN. I commissioned the UAC properties here in Abuja last year also. Quite a good number of sites being backed up by FMBN are ongoing.
Honorable Minister, I would like to just go straight to the issue of funding, in the housing sector. Finance, without money, you can't even do anything, so to speak. But then, as a government agency that cannot actually fund houses, but then you have some responsibility to some civil servants and the rest. But now, what are the schemes that you have for this set of people, and how are you managing the funding aspect of this mechanism?
The other issue of funding, apart from the supply part of it, that's the building, which I have just explained, has to do with the off-takers themselves. That's the civil servants. We realized that civil servants couldn't mop up money to buy a 1-bedroom apartment, 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom, depending on what they will need at a time. If they go for a mortgage, they will need to pay 10% or 20%, depending on what the bank will demand before they can access such a facility. Again, on that particular opening, we had 66 civil servants that applied for mortgage. That means the 10,000 housing units that we were thinking of building, we had to increase the strength to meet up the need of Nigerians. That's why I have cited the developers. We are also going on with others to ensure that we meet up the target at least to a certain good percentage. So the NMRC and the mortgage provision to back up the PMIs will help the civil servants, the workers who are qualified to access the mortgage facility to buy the properties when they are ready. Some had been completed, they've been assigned, the process is ongoing.
Well, indeed, Honorable Minister, I'm very sorry, but that's the only, that's about what we can take on today's edition of Inside Business. But I can assure you that next week we'll bring you back here and to talk about major issues, including the issue of, urbanization, collapsed buildings in the national building codes, and some of the milestones and things you've been able to do, and you'll be able to share that with us next week on Inside Business Africa. Honorable Minister, thank you very much indeed. But I'm sorry, we just have to move to something else on today's edition of the program. But we appreciate your coming to share your thoughts and your milestones at the ministry with us.
Thank you.
Well, I'll be speaking with the Honorable Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, Mrs. Ekon Eyakuye, who joined the Federal Executive Council just about a year ago, and he has talked to us a couple of things that has been said, and I hope you were taking notes of that. But next week, we promise to bring her back